Even after getting a deal done with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, the Cincinnati Bengals cannot stop creating chaos. We'll explain on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman Tyler Rowland, joined today by the mastermind, Locked On NFL expert Ross Jackson. On today's episode, I'm going to tell you why I think Ashton Jeanty is a touch overrated. Also, we're going to talk about this trade. The Cowboys got Joe Milton, and the Cowboys are the only part of the trade that got a good deal. We'll start, though, with the Cincinnati Bengals, who are just addicted to the drama this offseason. Before we get into it, though, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Stay tuned for the Armada Player of the Week later in the show. Also, do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. But with that being said, Ross, the Bengals, they get the deals done with the wide receivers, but now they're engaged in a public battle with Trey Hendrickson over his contract. I said it a couple of weeks ago when they first got the deal done and we talked about what they need to do next. I'm going to reiterate it again. I think they need to trade Trey Hendrickson. They have too much money wrapped up in the big three on offense. They need to get more draft picks, more opportunities, trading Trey Hendrickson, saving that money, using it in more of a money ball approach than paying 30-some million to one guy is the best route forward for the Bengals.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's not only the best route available for the Bengals. I think at this point, it's the best route available for Trey Hendrickson, too.
Yes.
Like, it's tough to go back to a team in this situation where you've gone on the Pat McAfee show and you've talked about, your frustrations and all those other things. Like, that's hard to bandage up and continue to move forward. Now, these guys are professionals. This is the NFL. We get it. They could move forward. But I do think that it's the best way for them to move ahead. And it's not like the Bengals are going to be without edge rusher prospects in this year's draft. They should be okay in terms of at least taking swings to replace him after they trade him with some of that compensation they can get back.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. It is a deep class with edge rushers, and especially in that mid part of the first round, guys like Mike Green, Michael Williams, a Shamar Stewart, even a Devin Ezerako. Like there are a lot of guys who could conceive it. James Pierce, if you want to put him in there, there are some football character things favorites that people are discussing with James Pierce that may be a little overblown. But the point remains, there's a lot of talent that should be available in that range for the Bengals, not only at edge, but on the D-line. And we're not the only ones that think that this is getting to a place where you may not be able to come back from it, because our guys from Locked On Bengals broke that down and these comments and what the Bengals owner, the daughter of the owner, high-level executive, Katie Blackburn, she had some interesting comments as well.
I'll tell you where it's headed. Let's start with where it's headed. And it's a 3-letter word. And it's not win. It's war. It's going to be a war now. That's what it is. Trey Hendrickson going on a national show like the Pat McAfee show, which, by the way, Trey, just come on Locked On Bengals anytime, my man. It's to go there in like 16 hours after that quote, maybe 18 hours after that quote came out from Katie, which I'm going to read in just a second. That rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And we'll share thoughts on that quote in a bit. But Trey's pissed. And use that, and I don't use that word a lot on it. He's clearly angry, and angry. Yeah, he's smiling on the McAfee show, but mad because when quotes like this roll out, he should be happy at certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he should be happy at. Some of it is on him to be happy at some point, and if he's not, that's what holds it up sometimes. It takes him to say yes to something, We have all the respect in the world for him. He's been a great player. We're happy to have him. And so maybe we'll find a way to get something to work. We're just going to see where it goes. And so that's the quote.
I mean, she literally said, take what you're getting and like it. Shut up.
Right.
After he led the NFL in sacks, like, I guess I get the general statement. She's right. Like at some point, it's just about what makes him happy. He's got to accept the contract. That is all that a negotiation is where can we get to a point where we're both happy or we're both the least mad? You know what I mean? That's what a good negotiation is, where we're both the least mad.
Right.
Because you shouldn't feel great if the negotiation was fair and equal. But the reality is, it doesn't sound like they're very close. And James went on in the same show to say that he doesn't think they're going to offer $33 million per year. And if they don't, then I don't know how they can get to a place where this makes sense for both parties. And you're right, at some point, you're just going to make him angry. And then again, the best route forward is probably a separation at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Like most things in life, when there are people in your life that make you upset, move on from those people that make you upset. You know what I mean? Or move on from those situations and things like that. I don't think that this is, even though we're talking millions of dollars at stake in the midst of all of it, like there's other teams that are going to be willing to pay Trey that kind of money and stuff. And so if you can, and so that's the other piece of it. And it's one of the other reasons why I say that not only is it better for the Bengals to kind of get past this situation before it gets bleaker, I guess, and that it's better for Trey Hendrickson, is that like Trey Hendrickson is going to be able to find a team out there that's willing to give him that extension, and the Bengals are going to get something back for it, and they're going to be able to kind of like, it's probably the best way for people to be the least mad in terms of how they move forward. And the only difference is that the Bengals aren't going to get what they want, which is Trey Hendrickson on the cheap. But this is what happens when that organization finally decides to start spending money. They spent money on Joe Burrow. They spent money on T. Higgins. They spent money on Jamar Chase. Now you have to make decisions if you're going to spend money on more guys. And this is welcome to actually building a team, Cincinnati Bengals. This is what it's all about at this point. And sometimes you just have to kind of say la vie in situations like this, such as life, and then let somebody move on. You can find another edge rusher talent. They don't grow on trees, as John Gruden once said about Khalil Mack, but they're certainly findable in today's day and age. And so I think that they would be able to kind of move past this without Trey Hendrickson, get something back, and not be a team in turmoil in that situation.
And back to, it's a good edge rusher class. So conceivably, there are good replacement options on the cheap that could still be high-level talents that would be available to the Bengals at 17. Not only that, but the Bengals are a team that absolutely has to ace this draft. When you pay people like they have at the top of your roster and you're top-heavy, you have to hit in the draft. And since he hasn't had a great record in the draft since they've drafted Joe Burrow, it's been hit or miss, and especially the last couple of drafts, been more misses. So, more opportunities, more picks. You could probably get a second and a third round pick or some combination of a day 2 and a day 3 pick out of Trey Hendrickson, the money that you save that opens you up to make other additions. It just makes too much sense for me to go through all this chaos. And now Katie Blackburn, who had the comments about Trey Hendrickson's contract, also said, quote, the team could go wherever we wanted after the 2025 season if the Bengals don't exercise a 2-year extension on their lease at their stadium, which happens at the end of June. So not only do we have, a high-level executive for the team, and Katie Blackburn is the daughter of Mike Brown, the owner, and I feel like she's in line to run the team eventually. But for her to come out this way and to pour gasoline on this Hendrickson fire and then to double down and talk about, potentially moving the team, I don't think the Bengals would move to a different city. I think it would probably be a different county. Maybe they go a little south. The Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area is very aligned, Newport, Kentucky, and stuff like that. It's very similar. So I think they might just move to a different county, but even the potential to move the Cincinnati Bengals out of downtown Cincinnati where the Red Stadium is and the big downtown scene is oh,
what a tragedy.
That is what a threat to their fans, man. What is going on?
Right. That's what I was saying. That is like direct retaliation. We're tired of hearing you complain about Trey Hendrickson. We're going to move the team if you don't stop. What is going on in Cincinnati, man?
Maybe they should just be happy about what they're getting and quit asking for more money from the city and the people. Maybe they should just be happy.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah. Maybe take a little, little page out of your own book there.
Yeah,
Katie Blackburn.
Take a little of your own medicine, Katie Blackburn. Maybe you should be just happy with what you get. But anyway, moving right along. Speaking of being happy, there was a trade in the NFL for a quarterback, and I got to be honest with you. Out of the quarterback and both the teams, only one party should be happy with the way things went down. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Nissan. The Armada Player of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, we're going to take a look at a draft prospect, pick one guy that stands out, the guy we believe showcased the strength and power needed to push an NFL team forward as we look to next season. And this week's Armada clear-cut Player of the Week is Cam Ward. Look, Cam Ward is a rugged player. He's got heavy-duty ability. He can conquer the road forward with capability and confidence, just like the Armada. Cam Ward's going to dream big and go big, and you can do the same with the Nissan Armada. When it comes to the Nissan Armada, again, you can go forth and conquer just like Cam Ward can do. It's clear that our Player of the Week is out here ready to go and hit the road with confidence, just like you can in the Nissan Armada. Take the Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. All right, Ross, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. Talked about the Bengals chaos and all the nonsense going on with them, which it's like they just stepped out of the drama and then stepped right back in it. And this time they created the other drama on their own as well. It just seems that the Cowboys are like the little brother of, or the Bengals are like the little brother of the Cowboys because you know, they're both drama and chaos and crazy ownership, but one team just actually has a good history and the other is a bottom dweller. But regardless of that, we'll move from the bottom dweller to the Cowboys. And the Cowboys make a trade here. They get Joe Milton, who was a rookie quarterback last year for the New England Patriots. And I'll throw it to my guy, Landon McCool from Locked On Cowboys, to break down the news.
The Dallas Cowboys have acquired a backup quarterback. Hi, I'm Landon McCool with the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and the Dallas Cowboys have swapped picks with the New England Patriots in exchange for backup quarterback Joe Milton III. Joe Milton was a former quarterback for the University of Tennessee. He actually played with Michigan as well. A very, very toolsy player, a huge arm, some big athleticism, very big quarterback. Stylistically, size-wise, he's on the spectrum that you would expect a Cam Newton to be on, just a big, mobile quarterback who can run a little bit. He's not exactly a runner, but he can break tackles because he's so big and has a huge arm. Had a really super impressive Week 18 game against the Bills. That put him on the radar for a lot of folks. There were several other teams in on trying to trade for him, but the Cowboys secured his services. We'll have more on him all week on the Locked On Cowboys podcast, so make sure you check us out.
All right, Ross. So just give me a second to cook here, okay?
Yeah, please.
Because I'm looking at this trade. The Patriots take a 7th rounder in Joe Milton and turn it into a 5th rounder, which is essentially like a 6th round value. All right. And then Joe Milton goes to the Cowboys, who have Dak Prescott, who is on a $60 million a year contract and would have all these Dak Prescott trades that people have thrown around, whether the Titans, the Browns. They're all absolute garbage because the Cowboys would have to eat $100 million in dead cap to be able to trade Dak Prescott. It's not happening. All right. So the point of saying that is Joe Milton got this trade. The Patriots said they traded him to the Cowboys because that's where he wanted to go out of respect for him, is what Jordan Schultz reported. Why would Joe Milton pick the Cowboys, where they have Dak Prescott, who is like unmovable, over the other teams that were reportedly interested in? The Raiders, who have Geno Smith, who still hasn't got that extension that they said they were going to give him when they traded for him.
Right.
The Eagles, who have been a quarterback factory to some point, who just traded Kenny Pickett to a team who's going to give him a better shot than Milton will get with the Cowboys. The Giants, the Steelers, two teams who don't have quarterbacks right now at all, basically. I mean, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, those aren't real options. But the Raiders, the Eagles, the Giants, the Steelers are all better opportunities for Joe Milton to get on the field or get good coaching than the Cowboys. And so the Patriots basically didn't gain any value from the draft pick that they got, even though Milton looked awesome in the one opportunity that he got this year. So they didn't get any additional value in their draft pick from the 1 year that they had him. Milton didn't get the best opportunity that was available. So the only person that should be satisfied is the Cowboys, who got a guy with really good talent, a cheap backup who they can develop on the side. And all they did was give up a fifth and get a seventh back. Like, the Cowboys are the big winner here, and Milton and the Patriots are both losers.
Yeah, I don't understand if this was truly the desire of Joe Milton. It'd have to be because like family's close, or he just wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy or something like that.
That's
like,
what it is.
It would have to be.
Yeah,
it'd have to be like the novelty of it. There's no other reason because there's no path for you there. And not only do the Philadelphia Eagles have a history of being a quarterback factory, but they have a history of having like some of the best backup quarterbacks ever in their history. Nick Foles, go all the way back to Rodney Peete. Before that, you think about Jeff Garcia, AJ, like there were so many of these guys.
Yeah.
Michael Vick started as a backup quarterback over there, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it was just like, man, like what a great opportunity for him. And then he goes to the rival across the street or across the division rather across the street. That was such a pedestrian moment of me. Across the division and the Dallas Cowboys. I thought it was really interesting. And look, we've seen the Cowboys do this before, right? They had Cooper Rush. They lost Cooper Rush 2 years ago. They traded a 4th round pick for Trey Lance from the San Francisco 49ers.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, they just keep stocking up with these backup quarterbacks that are never going to see the field, that are going to run out of a rookie contract and end up hitting the market and then end up maybe landing somewhere else. But then by then, what's the development there? Like the little bit of momentum that Joe Milton had, which let's be real, was like week 18 up against the backups of the Buffalo Bills type of momentum. You know what I mean? But like the little bit of momentum that was there now all of a sudden gets squashed unless Dak Prescott gets hurt, which to the Dallas Cowboys, like you're mentioning, great opportunity for them to potentially have somebody to fall back on. They're the only winners in this situation, but I don't see it from the Joe Milton perspective at all.
In New England, they called him Bazooka Joe. Like, he's got a massive arm. He has good athleticism, and it's the type of athleticism in today's game that, you're not talking about Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, but good enough athleticism to make plays outside of the pocket. And he showed that ability. So to me, this is a way better move than going to get Trey Lance. Like, this is
big time
than that trade. They paid less and got a player who I think showed more. You know what I mean? And hopefully by the time that rookie contract does run out, Joe Milton's not headed up to Saskatchewan. That's what the Cowboys hope for there. At minimum, if he doesn't turn into your next Dak, maybe he can be a long-term backup, which you need to.
Yeah, great move by Dallas. And you look, that week 18 game, 22 of 29, 241 passing yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown was a bomb. And that's what it is that he does. Like, that arm is insane. Like, all the traits are there. It's great for Dallas. I'm concerned about it for Joe Milton, who gets this opportunity, goes out there and does something that very rarely happens for quarterbacks in his position. And I don't mean position of quarterback, but coming in as a late round draft pick, being behind the, a top 5 guy, a top 3 guy, and then getting to showcase something, going out there and doing something that gets all of these other teams excited about you. And then you land in a place where you might never see the field in that jersey. And to me, that momentum could potentially cost him some of the opportunities that could have been ahead of him had he gone somewhere else. Like, to me, that's the big thing for me. But man, for Dallas, like, what a steal. What an absolute steal for the Cowboys. And I guess, like, the Patriots got a 5th round pick out of it. I don't think they're necessarily losers in the situation. I think Joe Milton's probably the biggest loser in the situation, potentially, if he never sees the field. But I mean, I guess if you're going to swap a backup quarterback, getting a 5th round pick for it ain't the worst situation in the world.
And hey, like he said, I tried to mention this earlier, but Ross, I can get a little off track at times. His mom loved the Cowboys. His family was Cowboys fans. Yeah. She used to, he even said, like, my mom used to run around in Cowboys shirt. So getting to go play for Dallas, he said he always wanted to live in Texas. So maybe he's just anti-establishment and hates taxes.
He don't want to pay tax. He don't want to pay taxes. He's not necessarily. He's the Blue Mountain State quarterback. He's just going to be the backup the entire time. And he's like, I get to live in Texas. My mama's happy. I get to wear the star, and I'm cooking. Maybe Joe Milton is the winner in this situation, Tyler.
He might. You actually just talked me into it. Joe Milton won this thing. He's going to get so many more endorsement deals and so much extra side cash from just being on the Cowboys too. You definitely get that bump. So
and he's going to be one of the most popular names in Dallas because everybody loves a backup quarterback. And so the moment that Dak throws an interception, it's going to be put Joe Milton in there. Yep. Like, I don't know. Maybe he's the hero. Who knows?
Bazooka Joe, baby. Let's do it. Bazooka Joe and Big D. Sounds like a great movie. With that being said, though, I got to talk about a guy who honestly getting a little bit too much hype for my liking, and it's Ashton Jeanty. And that sounds crazy, but let me explain. All right. Let's cap off today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the chaos in Cincinnati's chaos on today's show as well. Joe Milton traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Talked about that, but I gotta just throw this out here, Ross. I got an Ashton Jeanty take, and I think that he's gonna be a really good player, but I'm just not quite sure about what I'm hearing from some folks. Now, before we do that, thanks again for making Locked On NFL your first listen. Make sure you check out the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL with Tony Wiggins in the barbershop. Also, for your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft. It's draft season, folks. Keith Sanchez, Damian Parson doing great work over there. And speaking of that, let's hear what they had to say about Ashton Jeanty's pro day.
Ashton Jeanty had his pro day. He didn't do anything at the combine, Keith. He said, I'm going to wait till my pro day. A lot of people was anticipating the 40-yard dash. We were hoping to see that 40-yard dash. He didn't do any athletic tests. I don't think he did the 3-cone. I don't believe he did the what was it? The short shuttle, the L drill. The L. I don't think he did anything, right? And for me, it's simply, he did the field stuff. So you saw the bag work, things like that. And I'll speak on that first. The bag work stuff, Keith, he looked good. Like he was crisp, clean, light feet. You know what I mean? He moved well. Change of direction was good. He came out there, of course, shirtless. He wanted to show off, I'm in shape. We never worried about that, Ashton. We knew you were in shape, but he came out there and said, I'm ready to run the rock right now. He looks good. He had a good field workout, caught the ball well, which is something a lot of people forgot about because they ran the ball with him so much. In 2023, he had almost 600 yards receiving. Like he catches the ball out of the backfield. I don't think you're going to get a lot of route variation with him. I think he did have like a goal ball against Oregon, but I don't think you're doing that in the NFL.
So, look, with that in mind, I don't think that Ashton Jeanty is as good of a receiver as a Jahmyr Gibbs or even a Bijan Robinson, quite frankly. But my real overall point is, and I know that this isn't the hottest take of all the hot takes I've ever had, but I don't see Ashton Jeanty as an all-time player. Like, I don't think Ashton Jeanty is a generational prospect. I don't think that Ashton Jeanty is going to be on the level of Derrick Henry, Adrian Peterson, Saquon Barkley. And, I think that Ashton Jeanty is going to be a good player. I think he's going to be a very good running back. But to me, he's more of a Bijan Robinson. He's more of like Maurice Jones-Drew. I would compare him to. Maurice Jones-Drew is one of the best running backs in the NFL for quite some time. Nick Chubb, obviously injuries have tainted it, but like the level of player that Nick Chubb was. Nick Chubb was one of the best running backs in the NFL for a few years. The injuries slowed him down, but I just don't see Ashton Jeanty as a Hall of Fame all-time running back because I don't see him having the pass catching ability. I think he can catch the ball. It's not like bad. We're talking about the highs of the highs. So I just think he's more like Bijan Robinson level than he is Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, like in terms of his career trajectory.
So your concern is more about him not being a receiver out of the backfield, and that's what makes him sort of less special because of sort of
I also don't think that he has the lateral explosiveness of a Saquon Barkley. I think he runs with more power. Yeah, he runs with more power than Saquon for sure.
Yeah, I was thinking because Saquon will catch the football, do all these other things, but to Damian's point, not a lot of route variation in Saquon's game, not a lot of route variation in Derrick Henry's game either. And so if the take was that Ashton Jeanty is going to be a fantastic rusher, but isn't going to be as good a receiver, then I think that could still put him on those guys' level.
But I don't think he's going to be as good as Derrick Henry. That's the thing.
Yeah. But I think
he's not going to be as good of a runner as Derrick Henry. So if he doesn't have, it's like he's going to be really, really good at both things, but I don't think he's going to be great at either of them.
Yeah, I think you're wrong, Tyler.
So doesn't Tony. We argued about it already.
Yeah, I think you're wrong, man. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be really good. I don't think that you accidentally stumble your way to 2,601 rushing yards and 29 rushing touchdowns. I don't care what level of the game you're playing at in college, right? Because name another college running back in his class, or excuse me, in his conference, in his division. You can't, right? But you can name Ashton Jeanty because of what he did. And what he did was absolutely elite. And what he did would make any other running back in that conversation considered a generational running back. And so here's what I will say in addition to that. Bijan Robinson hasn't panned out in the NFL, but honestly, I don't think that's Bijan Robinson's fault. I think that he has
I don't know. He had 1,900 yards last year.
No, it's true. It's true. But he hasn't
I agree with you. It's not his fault.
Yeah, and I think that it's like Zach Robinson's run scheme was very one note. Like it's
and they
the
keep
curse
giving the
of
ball to Tyler Algier.
Yeah, right. They keep mixing in all these other guys and stuff like that. And so like he piled on the yardage, but it never felt like he just like hit the scene the way that everybody thought he was going to hit the scene coming out of college.
Right.
And then similar to that, you think about a guy like Jonathan Taylor, right? JT.
That's the other name that I had. I see Jeanty as a Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson level running back, not a Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry level running back. That is my ultimate take, I guess.
I think you take Jonathan Taylor, you take Bijan Robinson, you put him in the Philadelphia Eagles run scheme or in the and play calling, and you put them in the Baltimore Ravens run scheme and play calling with the Lamar Jackson to take some of the attention of those defenses, and they probably run a lot better and look a lot better than they look in Atlanta and they look in Indianapolis. And I think the same thing for Ashton Jeanty. Nope. I think the unfortunate truth for Ashton Jeanty is that where he ends up will dictate what his ceiling is.
Well, I think that that's obviously part of the conversation, but that's where I fundamentally disagree. I think if you put those guys in those offenses, they are very good. Like they are great.
You put Bijan Robinson
yards.
You put Bijan Robinson behind.
No way.
You put Bijan Robinson behind that Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, that Philadelphia Eagles run scheme, Kellen Moore as that play caller in in the 2024.
Yeah, just put him.
He doesn't have a better year, and he's not in a different class of categorization or conversation than he was with Atlanta last year.
No. He's not insane. To me, there's a difference between like all pro and then Hall of Fame.
Sure.
Like Bijan Robinson can make an all pro or two, but I don't think that Bijan Robinson is a Hall of Fame level running back. And I don't think that he'd run for 2,000 yards on the 2020 Titans or the 2024 Eagles. No, I don't actually. I think it'd probably be, 17 to 1,800 yards. Like it'd still be a great season. But I say no, actually. That is the difference to me, right? We're like getting to the pressure point of the difference in opinion is that, yes, if you put Bijan Robinson on the Eagles last year, I do not think he's a 2,000-yard rusher.
I don't know that he's a 2,000-yard rusher either, but I think he's an 1,800 or 1,900-yard rusher, and that's okay. I think that's still very, very good.
And that's a difference, though. There's a difference there.
But that's only if the 2,000-yard rusher also exists. But if you swap those two and you put Saquon Barkley and Zach Robinson's run scheme last year, he's not going for 2K. And all of a sudden, your leading rusher on the season is going to be a conversation between Bijan Robinson and Derrick Henry. We're talking about Bijan Robinson the way we're talking about Saquon Barkley right now.
And that's where I fundamentally disagree. I don't think so.
Oh, man.
I do not think so.
Oh, man. I can't wait. I hope Ashton Jeanty goes to the Jaguars and you got to watch him twice a year every year.
Oh, I hope so too.
Just run all over that Titans defense.
Please take a running back. I would love that. I don't like what I think is we're arguing right now the difference between A tier and S tier.
Yeah, right. It's great elite.
Yes, right. I don't mean to insult these guys who I think are tremendous. No. Like, I love Bijan Robinson. I like Bijan Robinson better than Ashton Jeanty. Like I would take Bijan Robinson over Ashton Jeanty if I had to, it's in a vacuum, pick one or the other. I'm playing a football game in my backyard, and I have to choose a running back. I go with Bijan personally, but like, again, we're arguing all-time great and great. So I think Ashton Jeanty will still be great. I just don't think that he ends up as like a Hall of Fame running back. I don't see that.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. And I think that it's one of the things this is where coaching really matters, right? Like not to change the subject, but like this is one of my favorite conversations around coaching is that it's one thing to take a guy that is, a raw prospect and turn him into a serviceable starter. That's a bigger gap to close, but it's something we see all the time.
Yes.
Great coaches can take that more than adequate, that great starter and turn them into a Hall of Famer. And that's where that's what I mean by, I think I don't know. let me see if I can think of an example, but Ashton Jeanty lands in New Orleans. He looks one way at his peak. Ashton Jeanty lands in Philadelphia. He looks an entirely different way at his peak. You know what I
agree.
mean? I think that ends up being a thing. Yeah.
Imagine as like a gap. You know, you have like the floor bar and then the in between, and all the different players. It's like your talent level. Like your talent level creates this gap.
Yeah.
Now,
tiny,
your situation determines where within that gap your career ultimately falls.
Exactly right.
You know what I mean? I love making a visualization out of it.
Yep.
I guess to me, I don't believe that the high level bar of Ashton Jeanty is in the Hall of Fame thing, you know, in his pocket. Oh, I don't think that it's that.
I think he can be there. I think he can.
So there you go. There you go. That's my heater. That's
a great
Ashton
conversation.
Jeanty argument.
That's fantastic.
So,
that's fantastic.
I know we're talking about like Hall of Fame and he's not a Hall of Famer. You're so spicy, bro. You know, but like, I don't know. I see a lot of people saying stuff like that. So I feel like it's a fun argument to have because some people really do see Ashton Jeanty as a Hall of Fame talent. So it'll be interesting to see it play out. But with that being said, that is going to do it for today's edition of Locked On NFL. I am your host, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Mastermind, Ross Jackson. As I tell you every episode, thanks for tuning in and stay safe out there.